Welcome to the Clarity Advisor Show, where you'll learn how to grow your team today. Join Ken Trupke and his guests as they discuss what works and doesn't work to grow your team in today's world. And now, your host, Ken Trupke.
Hello, and welcome to the Clarity Advisor Show. On today's Ask Me Anything show, we are once again going to answer a few viewer questions. So question number one, is it okay to stay at the same company for a long time, or do I need to move around? Well, as with most questions that aren't mathematical, the answer is, it depends. So it used to be that staying at one job showed maturity, loyalty, and stability, and that switching jobs often raised concerns. But since layoffs have become the accepted means for managing businesses, people have realized accurately, correctly, that loyalty doesn't go both ways. And so people have become much more willing to move, to the point that today the average tenure at a given job is about 4 years. So I bring this up because you may be getting advice from your parents or grandparents who worked in a different era and don't fully understand how things are today. So it's not that they're wrong, it's just that what they experienced isn't necessarily what you're experiencing. So just keep that in mind. That doesn't mean don't ask them. That doesn't mean don't include them and value them. It just means understand and put their advice in context. So, okay, back to the question. Well, it mostly depends on what you want from your current job. So let's say you want experience. Well, then the questions are you learning from someone who would be hard to replicate? Boss or a peer or someone around you that you probably can't find somewhere else. And being around them is so valuable right now, and you're able to absorb so much from them that's going to be valuable to you in the future, that you really want to kind of put up with some things that maybe you wouldn't want to in other places, like maybe the money specifically is not great. You could maybe make more elsewhere, but could you get time with this kind of a person elsewhere? Another thing to ask yourself is, are you at a name brand company? Is it a company that people know when you say, I work at X? They're like, oh, I've heard of them. Something that will help you open doors for your next thing. So you're getting experience to build a resume to say, I spent time at this company, and therefore I know things that you should invest in, or you should hire me because I can bring some of this knowledge from name brand company. So if you're looking for experience, those are a couple things to keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind here is often in business, we undervalue the people we have and the people that we know, and we overvalue the people that we don't know, the outsiders. And so you can be spending your time growing your skills, learning new things, studying, training, all those things, but you're still seen as an insider. You're just one of us, and we only know what we know, and we only have the ideas that we have. And what we need is an outsider to come in to bring new ideas and fresh perspectives and all these things that maybe you could provide, but because you're on the inside, you're not viewed that way. And so flip that around. Now you go to another company, and now you are that outsider that is bringing the fresh ideas and the new perspectives that you would have gladly shared at your current organization, but they weren't able to perceive it because they have you kind of tied down into this characterization of you as this previous version of you. And so they can't accept you as a new and growing and dynamic person. Whereas the outside new company that you go to, they totally will accept you as that. So that's something to be aware of as you stay longer and longer in one place, and something to maybe look forward to and a reason to leave and go somewhere else is that you will definitely have a chance to get a reset on who you are and what you know and the value that you bring. All right. And the biggest reason to move, of course, is money. I mentioned that loyalty is pretty undervalued these days. People don't say, oh, you've been here 15 years. We got to make sure we take care of you because we really value that you've put in all this time. That just doesn't tend to be how it goes. And so the question to ask yourself is the pay keeping up with the market? because wherever you came in most organizations, even if you've gotten promotions, most organizations are going to do some kind of 3 to 5, maybe up to 7% raise annually. So you've been chunking along at 2, 3, 5, 7, whatever it is, percent increases every year. And maybe based on your experience and your promotions internally and what you are now able to command in the market, maybe it would be a big jump to go outside. And if you bring that to the attention of your current leaders, they might, again, kind of back to this idea of seeing you as who you were. They're like, well, you've been this person all along and we've been taking care of you and moving you along. And you say, yeah, but there's this big gap between, my 2 and 5% raises that got me to here. And the market's like 20% above that. And they're going to be unlikely often to say, oh, okay, yeah, 20% raise to get you back up to the market. They're going to be like, well, that's a big stretch. And so you just got to understand that that's probably the reality. And you may need to move in order to get paid what you're worth. Now, back to the idea of experience, it might be worth the experience that you're getting, either because it's that name brand company or you're working with that amazing person that would be hard to replicate. Those might be reasons to trade off the money, at least for a while. So the other question I would ask around money is, are there opportunities to become a partner or get equity or maybe even take over the business at some point if there's no succession plan in place? Those could be other reasons if you are interested in becoming an owner in sticking around. By sticking around, you continue to be a player in that business, and the succession plan could naturally move toward you, or you could be in there while it's happening and you can have some say maybe over it. It's just easier to get equity, to become a partner, or to take over a company that you're already in rather than coming in from the outside. So if that interests you and you think that there are those opportunities, well, that's another reason to stay where you are. So again, it depends on what you're trying to accomplish and then the specific situation around that. Okay, question number 2. I have years of experience doing the same kind of work as the team I lead. I was recently put in charge of a new department where I don't have personal experience. The people in my new department have told me directly that I can't lead them because I don't know what they do. Are they right? And what can I do? Well, this is a great question and more common than you might think. So the first thing I would recommend that you do is remind the team of what your job is and what your job isn't as a leader. And what your job isn't as the leader is to be the subject matter expert, the SME or the SME, as the cool kids sometimes say. You're not the subject matter expert. You don't know the most about the thing that the team is doing, and that's okay, because you don't need to do that. You're there to lead. Your job is to remove obstacles and provide resources. You're the person that can get things accomplished, and you're getting things accomplished through others. When you become a leader, you shift from the person who's doing work and getting things specifically accomplished yourself to someone who gets things accomplished through other people. That's just what leadership is. You're now leveraging yourself across a team. And so your job as that leader is to remove the obstacles, to help them clear the path to get things done, whether those are problems internally, whether it's politics, it could be resources that they need help from another team, or they're stuck with another team and you need to go fight that battle with another team to try to get things moving again. That's your role as the leader, to keep your team productive so that they can get things done, because that's how you succeed, is through them. That's just the nature of leadership. So that said, be curious to learn all that you can. Because you're the leader and it's not your job to be the subject matter expert, doesn't mean you don't want to learn about that subject matter. Even though you probably will never know as much as your subject matter experts, your SMEs, learning more will help you connect with them, and it's going to help you make better decisions. The more you know about what exactly they do and how they do it and how this all works, the better you can engage with them and the better decisions that you can make because you just understand it better. So do you need to know all that to be a leader? 100% no. Is it helpful? 100% yes. So make sure your team knows what your role is. Be clear. Hey, I'm not here to know the most. And the good news for you, team, is that means I won't be breathing down your neck with like, hey, why didn't you do it this way? Why didn't you do it that way? And being that micromanager who doesn't just give the what's, but gives the how. Because as we know, the how is the fun part. The how is the thing we like to do without a lot of oversight. Go ahead, tell me what, leader, but don't tell me how. And so let them know, listen, I don't know enough about what you do. And so that's good. That means I won't be telling you how to do it. So, and hopefully you won't, because then you literally will be a micromanager. So don't do that. But your job isn't to do that work. It's to help them do that work better by clearing those obstacles and providing them with resources and fighting the battles for their budget and fighting the battle for the new positions that you want to add, whatever it is to help the team do better. That's your role. That doesn't mean you're not interested. Again, it doesn't mean you don't want to learn what they do. Like, hey, I'm super interested in getting up to speed, but let's not confuse where I'm going to end up. I'm never going to be as good at this as you, and good thing, that's why we have you. You're the subject matter expert, not me. Okay? So don't let people pigeonhole you into saying, oh, you can't lead me because you don't know everything I know. Well, that's not my role. My role isn't to know everything that you know. My role is not to be on the field. I'm now the coach on the sideline. I'm now the GM up in the booth. I'm not on the field. You're on the field. And my job is to help you be successful. Okay, last question for today. I'm over 60 with nearly 40 years of work experience. And I don't know a lot about new technology, but I know about people. So how do I still bring value to my company? Great question. With people staying in the workforce longer, with boomers and about to be Xers coming into that mid-60s range of, quote, retirement historically, but still wanting to work or maybe even needing to work. So they're going to be around. But the question is, how do you bring value? Because like athletes, we tend to start to have our skills diminish over time. And as new things come up, like the person writing in here talks about technology, it is new to us, and people younger and less experienced in the workforce know more about those things. So great question. How do I bring value? Well, first off, technology is broad and it's always changing. So when you say, I don't know technology, well, that's a really broad statement. You probably do know some things about some technology, but yeah, it's really hard to know technology as a broad thing. And just remember, even younger people with less experience can find it challenging to keep up because it's moving so quickly. It used to be that millennials were like on top of technology and everybody pointed to millennials, well, everybody being boomers and Xers, pointing to millennials as, you know, those kids who know all this tech stuff. Well, millennials are well into their 40s now. And now we look at the next generation, the what I call the iGen, but it's Gen Z as the tech gen, and then this alpha gen behind them, like these kids growing up with technology. Well, yeah, they grew up with the technology they grew up with, but that doesn't make them experts in the things coming up behind them. And so nobody's really on top of, quote, technology. And the good news is you don't necessarily need to, because especially if you're that person with decades of experience and are in that stage of your career, what doesn't change? Well, technology does. What doesn't change is people. People don't change. And I don't mean individuals don't grow and change. Of course they do. I'm saying people, kind of us as a species, and the things that we do well and the things that we struggle with, that kind of stuff doesn't really change. And so your well-earned experience has a ton of value. Now, at this point, I want to highly, highly, highly recommend a book called From Strength to Strength by Arthur C. Brooks, and I'll have it in the show notes. But the idea of this book is he describes this shift from succeeding by solving hard problems. Think like just raw smarts, like you know stuff and you're really good. And that's your job, is to solve problems. I liken it to an athlete who is at the peak of their career. You know, they're on top of things, but they're probably pretty young. And they get to a point, depending on the sport, could be early 20s, could be early 30s, I think of like football and hockey tend to be early 30s where you kind of peak. And then it's downhill from there. And we've all seen those athletes that just hung on a little too long while their skills deteriorated. And it's just natural. Well, in the work world and in desk jobs and knowledge work and things that aren't based on your athleticism or your physical makeup, the same thing. You have depreciation, you have reduction in your ability to just have raw smarts to solve problems. So he talks from strength to strength. So you go from this strength of being able to solve problems yourself with raw smarts, and that curve starts to diminish. So as your career starts, you build up, and at some point it starts to tail off. Well, he wants you to go from strength to strength. And the other strength is wisdom, where you're using your stock of knowledge to see patterns and provide guidance. Now, in the book, he calls that first curve fluid intelligence, where you're solving problems, you're moving through things, things, and you're fixing things. And it's your knowledge of how to do the thing that matters most. Again, back to the athletes, it's your ability to perform on the field that matters most. Now, when you shift your intelligence to what he calls crystallized intelligence, that's that pattern recognition. That's that synthesis of bringing everything you've seen before together. And so back to the athletes, now you're the coach. You've been there. You've done that on the field. Now you can't perform at that level on the field, but you still know the game. You still know the techniques. You still know the things that can help other people. And so specifically, if you're this person now in your early 60s or beyond, and it could even happen in your late 40s, maybe you start thinking about, are my get it done skills deteriorating? Am I seeing people pass me and know more than me? And technology bring up, am I not keeping up? Well, that might be okay. What do you know about the things that don't change? What do you know about people that you can bring to the table? What patterns have you seen? So specifically to answer this question, I would say a couple things. One is mentor young leaders. How can you bring value to your current company? Mentoring the younger leaders. They're all about solving the problems, right? They're all about problems, not people. They've got the knowledge. They're the hustler. They're the athlete at the peak of their game on the field right now. They're go, go, go. Well, let's guide them and teach them how to lead well. Let's work on those timeless principles we talked about a couple episodes ago. Communication, building culture, showing recognition and appreciating the team. Let's help them become those kind of leaders. And so that they can move from, as we talked about in the previous question, move from that person who is doing the work to the person who's removing obstacles and leading the work. So help them see their job as more of that, getting things done through others. That's a great role for an experienced leader to be able to help the leaders of tomorrow or even the leaders of today who are just starting out and need to work on their people stuff, not their technical stuff. So number one, mentor young leaders. Number two, I would suggest is help with strategy. You've seen things play out. You've been around for decades. Be proud of that. That's a good thing. Sometimes our culture overplays the whole young, gotta be young, 50's the new 30, whatever. You've earned your experience. You've seen business cycles. You've seen good times and bad times. You've seen ups and downs. And you've seen things that work and don't work in each of those types of cycles. And so it's that value that you're bringing, that perspective and that realization that the timeless principles always work, regardless of the business cycle. Those things we talked about in a previous episode, the timeless principles episode about communication and culture and appreciation and recognition of your team. These are some of the things that bring value at this stage in your career. Okay, that answers those questions. Feel free to email me with your questions. You can reach me at ken@clarityadvisors.io. We'll see more of those questions come in and tackle those on a future episode. Please also send me topics you'd like me to cover or guests you'd like me to invite onto the show. It doesn't have to necessarily be a specific person, but maybe it's an industry or a type of leader that you're looking for. So that brings us to the end of another Clarity Advisor show. Thank you so much for joining me. And if you could leave a review on the platform you are listening or watching right now, I would very much appreciate that. And we'll see you next time on the Clarity Advisor Show. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to the Clarity Advisor Show. Clarity Advisors is a speaking, training, and consulting firm specializing in helping you simplify your sales and operating systems to improve efficiency and grow your profits. Connect with Clarity Advisors today to learn more about how they can help you improve communication and get your team aligned and engaged for greater success.